Hello. So this is the like power of how you talk about your life. How you talk about the major events of your life has a profound impact on your personality. Imagine that when you were 12 years old, your family moved to the other side of the country. In your new school, you were bullied for the first time. When you reflect upon this period of your life today, do you see this as just one of the many episodes in which things were going great and then turned sour? Or do you see it as another example of a tough experience that had a happy ending? Perhaps the bullying toughened you up and led you to meet the person who became your lifelong buddy. It may not seem as if the way you tell you this story, even just to yourself, would shape who you are. But it turns out that how you interpret your life and tell its story has profound effects on what kind of person you become. In the mid-20th century, the show This Is Your Life was a popular staple on British and US television. It involved celebrities and non-celebrities being presented with a red book that featured key events, pivotal turning points, and memories from their lives. For the show, these life stories were compiled by researchers, but in reality, each of us walks around with a version of the red book, one personally authored, often without us even realizing it, in our minds. These narratives exist, whether we choose to give them much conscious attention or not. They lend meaning to our existence and provide the foundation of our senses of identity. You Are Your Story, as a team led by Kate McLean at Western Washington University described it in their recent paper in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. The stories we tell about ourselves reveal ourselves, construct ourselves, and sustain ourselves through time. Excuse me. The new research from McLean's group is among the latest to explore the intriguing idea that though we constantly revise and update them, these personal stories contain various staple elements that reveal something inherent about us. They reflect a fundamental aspect of our personality. One of McLean's collaborators, personality experience and a personality expert and pioneer in the field, Dan P. McAdams at Northwestern University, explained this in his seminal paper, The Psychology of Life Stories. People differ from each other with respect to their self-defining life stories in ways that are not unlike how they differ from each other on more conventional psychological characteristics such as traits. In the almost 2 decades since McAdams made that claim, evidence has accumulated to support the idea that alongside our goals and values and character traits, our personal narratives reflect a staple aspect of our personalities. Other work has also illustrated the significance of the idea of self-stories as a part of personality, since the way we tell our personal stories turns out to have implications for our mental health and overall well-being. For instance, if you're the kind of person who would remember the positives that came out of the hypothetical bullying episode at your new school, it's also more likely that you enjoy a greater sense of well-being and satisfaction in life. Moreover, the possibility that changing your self-authoring style and focus can be beneficial indeed. Helping people to reinterpret their life stories in a more constructive light is the basis for what's known as narrative therapy. The red book in your head is not the final edition. Modify your story as you tell it, and perhaps you can change the kind of person you are. What are the different styles of narrating our lives? When it comes to describing people's character traits, the conventional way of thinking about personality, the most widely supported and research theory in the field suggests that from the thousands of traits terms in the English language, there can be distilled a big 5 that capture the essence of each individual. And it seems our life stories, similar, have main features by which each of us can be defined. Research has measured a dizziness range of different aspects of people's personal stories, including agency, communion, balance, redemption, contamination, closure, coherence, exploratory processing, growth goals, integrative and intrinsic memories, positive and negative meaning making, elaboration, sophistication, accommodative processing, differentiating processing, ending balance, effective processing, intimacy, foreshadowing, and complexity. To distill the most meaningful life story, features from this list that I just said, McLean and her team conducted 3 studies involving nearly 1,000 volunteers. Each provided stories of particular episodes of their lives or an overarching narrative summarizing their entire life. Story. Based on a thorough analysis and coding of the narratives they produced, McLean and her colleagues believe there is a big 3 of key factors, like 3 features that represent the characteristics way we tell our life stories. The first is motivational and affective themes, which look at how much autonomy and connection with others the narrator expresses, as well as how positive or negative the stories are overall, and whether they are dominated by good situations turning sour or bad situations working out well in the end. The second is autobiographical reasoning, which is how we reflect on the experience in our stories, find meaning in what's happening, and discern links between key events and ways we have and haven't changed. Finally, there is structure, or how much our story makes sense in terms of their timeline, facts, and context. For our personal narratives to be akin to an aspect of personality, they need to show a degree of meaningful stability over time. Recent research suggests this is indeed the case. For instance, Robin Fivush at Emory University and her colleagues asked nearly 100 adult volunteers to tell their life stories in an interview. They caught up with them again 4 years later, at which point they invited them to tell their stories once again. Crucially, the researchers found that the cohesion of their volunteer stories showed stability across the duration of the study. The ways in which we tell autobiographical narratives reflect a stable aspect of individual differences. So that's all I have on this topic. Thanks for listening.